Hello everyone, welcome to this session about the prelims strategy and what you should be doing and what you can do given that about 30 days or so are remaining for the prelims. It means that you are at the fag end of your preparation and your journey for your attempt, and prelims is right around the corner. And as this time approaches, I understand that anxieties increase tremendously. You may face a lot of uncertainty, and you are not wrong in experiencing this. That is the nature of the examination. It is not an easy journey. The competition is very tight. Most of the times, you don't know how well you have performed, what you have been, whether what you've been doing is going to be fruitful. It will bear fruit when the exam comes. Only then you ultimately realize, much after you have completed the exam, whether you were on the right track and if you did, what mistakes you committed. But that is not the topic of discussion for us today. What we need to do is figure out the best possible use of the time that remains. At this point on time, I would like to stress a few things and make sure that you understand the orientation is correct going forward. One, please remember that you are still in the race. Okay, it is not over. Regardless of what you may have done in the past, regardless of how many days you might have wasted, regardless of even of the fact that you are filled with regret and you are sure that you are not well prepared, regardless of those feelings of uncertainty, please be true to yourself. Ask yourself with direct honesty, have you worked hard over the past few weeks or months? If you have put in some hard work, then you are in a better position than you might think. That said, it is still a difficult examination, but the outcome has not yet been decided. And what happens in the next few days will make a drastic difference in the final result of not only this year, but the next year. So if you are a fighter, if you are in this game to win it, then play it with courage and play it with honesty and with integrity, right? And that means being very true to yourself. It also means not being overconfident and not being underconfident when it is not required. So I will take you through some important pointers and some resources which you should be following. But at the same time, I would also like to mention a very important caveat here, and that is at this point forward, although this is common sense and you may have understood or heard about it already, you should not be reading or learning new content. New content is not to be read or to be captured at this time. That time has passed. Now what we must do is consolidate. Our objective right now is to consolidate and to make sure that whatever you have invested over the past few months does not go to waste. Okay, that is what we are trying to do. It is very often seen that students can get swept away with the anxiety of doing more and more and more, and they don't end up giving as much credit to what they had read before, and as a result they don't get the accuracy required. You see, in the exam, it's not just about you having read or having come across that piece of information which they will ask you in a multiple choice question. You must also understand it to the level to be able to understand, to correct it, answer it correctly, and or even at least to eliminate some possibilities from the correct answers. So that can happen only when you are quite thorough with that content, with that area, and that is being seen more and more in the UPSC exam. And as a matter of the pattern, one can see the level of difficulty of the questions is increasing. They are not easy. One needs to know the question in detail. They make it very hard for you to second guess and eliminate options. One can only eliminate accurately and with confidence when you know exactly what the subject is. And because of this reason, the entire focus of the next few days and of what I will tell you in the next few minutes of my conversation with you is going to be consolidation, intelligently done, instead of us running around chasing more and more content. Okay, so with that, I would like to bring your attention to the core areas of the subjects of general studies which should be paid attention to at this time. But it is also important to say that you already would have considered and done and invested in studying from some sources. The sources I recommend now may or may not be those sources. If there is a divergence between what I suggest and what you have done, then you should follow what you have already done and not what I am suggesting. Okay, so if you have been doing history from a particular book and I suggest another book for revision, You should not go on to my new book. You should go back to your book and do revision. I want to make that very clear. The idea of revision is consolidation. Okay, I will recommend certain things, and it is very likely that the sources I recommend you already would have encountered, or you would have studied, or you would have seen. So, what are the maximum ROI sources for the GS subjects? Of course, ROI means return on investment. We are looking for maximum ROI sources right now. We are not looking for fringe areas. Okay. So, for instance, if you take history, it can be very large. History is vast, right? And you can go on reading history up until the last moment, until the morning of the exam, and you won't be able to cover everything, and you still won't be able to write and get all the answers correctly. So it is not a very high ROI strategy to read history en masse and in volumes at this time. What is high ROI in as much as history is concerned? To focus on the sources which are very authentic, from which questions have been coming, from which questions are likely to come, and which are low in volume, low enough for us to cover in this time. Okay, that said, again, before I mention anything further, I would like to remind you, I've already said, if you have studied history from somewhere else, then that should become your source. In my opinion, at this point in time, maximum ROI for history will be obtained from CCRT website, which will cover ancient and medieval to a large extent. If you go onto the CCRT website, you will find in the section publications, you will find various art forms. You will find architecture, you will find music, you will find literature. Okay, this covers a very large variety of important cultural heritage based inputs from the point of view of the examination in that website. Maybe you have done ancient India from Bipin Chandra or the NCRT. If you have done that, please follow that. But if you have not done it, or if you have gone through the CCRT website before, please do go through it one more time, because it contains a lot of details, a lot of factual details which may appear at the right time, and it may appear in the exam. So it is likely that one or two or three questions, maybe, if you are lucky, you may be able to capture. CCRT website is a good place for ancient, and it covers medieval to some extent and the art and culture aspect of it. I don't think it is a good idea to get into the details of medieval India and start to read the whole thing like it is your optional subject. Not a good ROI. With that said, what about geography? I think in geography, maximum ROI right now will come from physical geography. Okay, it will come from physical geography, and it will come from current affairs, which are related to geography. We will talk about that in some detail. It will come from physical geography, and by that I mean it is a good idea to revise the NCRT, or at least any core content of physical geography which you may have studied, whether that was Ghoshi Leong, or it was some other book, or it was a course, or it was your study material. Physical geography entails the things which are static in geography. That includes the basic infrastructure, where railways are situated, where ports are situated, whether there has been a development, and so on. Okay. Of course, I will talk about the dynamic current affairs part separately. I am only referring to the static portion, right? And most of geography will be overlapping with economics, and that, as you know already, is going to be very overlapping with current affairs. I'll give some time to current affairs separately. Right now, I am only on the static portions. For geography, we should be focusing for a few days on physical geography to just make sure all the relevant details are revisited at least once, so that if there's a question out there which can be answered about rivers, or in which direction the tributaries flow, whether they flow from the right or the left, or the north to the south, or whatever, arrange them in a sequence, or which towns fall on the border of which tributaries of which river, or something like that. You should be able to just memorize from that pictographical memory of the map, that part of physical geography I'm talking about. Then we come to economics. For economics, I don't think that you should be reading any books or any theoretical macroeconomical concepts or fundamentals right now. I think most of the examination will be from the current developments in economics, as it is when you read current affairs magazines, whether you read from Vision IAS, Insight IAS, or anyone out there. Many of them they have good coverage of current affairs. They have, in fact, perhaps too much coverage of current affairs, and they will have some column giving you the idea of what it is. So if there is a current affairs news article about rate hikes or some regulations by the RBI, then it will be mentioned what cash reserve ratio is or what repo rate is. Stuff like this will you will keep encountering. It is enough to capture the type of practical economic based questions which they ask from the static portion. And so I don't think a book is recommended. I think for economics it should overlap with current affairs, but one source which I think should be read is the economic survey. And that too, I mean the main chapters. Don't go into the details of the chapters on agriculture and exactly what percentage of changes is happening where. Read the basics, read the first few chapters, read the final summary. Make sure you understand and you go through the basic English text of the economic survey, which a layman can understand. At times, that document can get very technical. Okay, that is what it is supposed to do. Ignore those very factual, very data driven passages. Just read the English part of it. Just try to translate in your mind what it is saying, whether maize production went down or it went up, and if so, then by what reasons. Of course, they will use some economic jargon, simplify it in your mind and get it over with. If you are going to read a text, it should either be economic survey, that to the English portion, the laymanish portion of it, or you should be reading the economics from the current affairs. That leaves us now with polity. Polity is voluminous, and I don't know if you have been following the polity challenge or not, but it was supposed to get you to a nice place during this time. I had scheduled it and the weeks of it such that had you been covering it to some extent, at this week would have been week 7, and you would have covered a major portion of the static portion at least. In any case, doesn't matter now. It's absolutely fine. Whatever you have done, you must put to good use. How to do that? I think the ideal source is either Lakshmikant or DD Basu, depending on which book you prefer, which source you prefer. Go through the static portion one more time. Don't stop to memorize anything much. If possible, read it twice. If possible, read it twice. And when you read polity, please try to connect it to current affairs. If you are reading the chapter on governor, for example, try to see or run a quick Google search about what happens, what the news, what Google News says when you type governor in India or governor in some state or whatever you may wish to say. Perhaps you wish to say you are reading the NHRC, National Human Rights Commission. See what happened in Google News in recent times with NHRC. See why it was in the news. Don't spend too much time in it. Please try to connect your polity with current affairs while you are reading it. Okay, there will obviously be a portion in your current affair magazines separately for polity that it will include all the government schemes, all the new policies, all the new legislations which may have come. Of course, that is there, and I will tell you a very, very useful and good source for polity. But I would like to emphasize and bring your attention back to the static portion, which I don't want you to miss, because questions from there can be easy if you know what the difference is. They might ask you how the Panchayati Raj system works, or what is the method of election or selection of the municipal council, or something like that. And that is something that if you have read and have had exposure to or have had some time, you will be able to understand. I know it is a lot of text, lot of volume, lot of details, very overwhelming. It's okay, completely fine. Just read it, try to convert it into basic English, try to understand why it is the way it is. Move on, move on. Depend more and focus more on the current affairs part of it. If you have not done the static portion, if you don't think you will be able to memorize it, it is fine. It is not something you should obsess about. Try to figure the whole thing in its entirety. Try to read every chapter and see where the interconnections lie. Try to make sure when you read a chapter, say for the president, and you go through the details, try to see what might be very relevant from the point of view of the exam. Try to see which current affairs it relates to or something that has happened in the constitution or in legislation with regards to that office, not the political side of it, the executive, rule bound, legislative side of it. That side I'm talking about. And then move on. Okay. That leaves us with science and tech. That leaves us with environment. So for science and tech, it the rules for economics apply to science and tech also. In science and tech also, most of it is going to be from current affairs, and there's no point trying to figure out how chemistry works or how physics works or what Faraday's laws or Maxwell's equations mean. No point getting into it. You already know that that is not relevant, but they may ask you questions about the practical applications of science. That's understandable. It is okay if you are a person who is driven towards technology. You may have read about certain things which they may ask about, say, the James Webb telescope, which has been launched, or some recent developments and breakthroughs in genetic technology or in the technology of transplantation. In any case, it is about going to be about more about current affairs, and the probability of you getting a question in science tech correct is either you know it from a long time ago, you understand intuitively something about it, or you have come across it in your current affairs. So it is also dependent highly on current affairs. It's important to go through the current affairs of the monthly magazines. For science, please don't waste time reading a lot of books at this point, in my honest opinion. That leaves environment, and more or less the same rules apply to environment also. And I will talk about some important sources for each of these separately. I have given some compilations for science and tech, some for environment. I will be giving some more. These should be supplemented with your current affairs magazines, and they should be used in a combination. I've told you a lot about the general studies and how I would cover it given this type of time frame. I will take you through a timetable and a schedule also, a sample schedule which I have prepared, which you can refer to. If you have a plan already in place, please follow that plan. If you find some merit in the plan that I will share, maybe you can take some elements from it and use it. There is no need for you to give up on your strategy just because you are getting something new. It may or may not be suitable. If there is something which you find can be taken from my insights, my inputs, go ahead and use it. I'm not asking you to abandon your strategy completely. That would not be a good idea, right? And this brings me to CSAT. Now, for this, I recommend that you get it over with now. Since you have about a month or so left, let us give 5 or 6 days to it, not entire days, just 5 or 6 days in our calendar starting now, such that we get to a point where we can be relatively comfortable now that we can say, okay, we are now in touch with these basic math, logical reasoning type questions. We are now in touch with these basic English comprehension type questions, and clearing it shouldn't be a problem at least. How do we get there? I have already shared with you a session on CSAT math. I have shared with you another session on CSAT English. Please refer back to those videos. You will find them in the playlists or the channel somewhere. Go through them, and you will find some mention of some very important resources also. So for instance, for CSAT math, I had recommended certain courses from brilliant.org, and I had made a list of the important ones and I had sent it to you, and you go see that video, you will find the details. It's not an issue. It shouldn't be an issue. In a few days it can be completed. Same thing applies for CSAT English. I had recommended that some IELTS papers, question bank should be solved. I had also shared a very large question bank for CSAT English, which you will be able to find if you go and see that video. Look into it, the description of the video, check out the resources, and then figure out where those are. Get those, practice those. If you have a strategy in place, like always, follow it. This is to put you to ease and to give you that structure so that you don't waste time in anxiety. And I'll talk about anxiety also. It's very much part of your revision. And the extent to which you control your anxiety will be the extent to which you are able to learn in this time. That's very important. In fact, more important than the sources that I am talking about right now. But again, that's a topic for later. We will talk about this. I have mentioned that one should do current affairs concurrently during this time. It should form, or it should be given at least 50% of the time, all the time that is now remaining. More than 50% or 50%, at least should be devoted to current affairs only from this point onwards, not to the static portion. The remaining 50% of the time can be divided into the subjects for the static portion. Because like we have discussed, like we already understand by now, current affairs can cover most of the areas of a lot of the static subjects. It won't cover history unless there is some research and some archaeological finding, but those are rare. Won't cover history, won't cover the static portions of polity, of conceptual portions of economics, physical geography it won't cover. It will not cover some basic applied science. That's the static part. Everything else, everything that overlaps with polity, how things are changing, what new legislations, what new debates, for instance, about secularism, about prisoner identification, which have been recently initiated, concerns about data privacy, concerns about India's economic growth, concerns about inflation, which have been in the news, which overlaps with economics or human geography, whatever you want to call it, concern about defense spending, any new defense acquisitions that may have occurred, concern about the environment, any new pacts that have been signed, any new treaties that have been signed, any new commitments that have been announced in the COP26 perhaps, any new initiatives that have been undertaken. All these things, all of them, will be found in those current affairs magazines, in your current affairs sources, and definitely in your own compilations if you have been making compilations from the newspaper or whatever. This gets 50% or more of your time. It's very important. And one should know this because more than 50% of the questions are going to be from current affairs, as you already know. Now, when you read current affairs or when you read the static portions, please still don't stop making connections. Your mind can't stop working. Your curiosity should not be going down at this stage. I understand at this stage, one becomes very nervous, one can become very anxious. Thinking goes out of the mind, and one can feel that I have so much to do, I just need to figure out how to get it done. But you see, as soon as you get into that mindset, your original thought will stop immediately. You will go into that pre-exam school mindset that we used to have, that everybody has gone through, where you're just mugging stuff up, trying to mug up information. Doesn't work in the UPSC. Of course, memory is very important. You will require memory, but it will be a combination of application, memory, and conceptual clarity. There is no escaping that pattern. Will never change. That will always be there. Many and most of the questions will be about these interconnections, and I have already spoken at length about the interconnection and overlapping between static portions and the current affairs. I am now saying when you are reading the current static portion or when you are reading current affairs, please try to connect them, try to go back to the static portion. So, for example, if you are reading something about a recent natural calamity or a volcano which has erupted recently, I will leave you to guess which volcano I'm talking about. Volcano has erupted and it has caused some geological phenomena which is exciting people. It is a good idea to just go back to the chapter on volcanoes in your physical geography portion and just quickly check out anything that's out there worth worth reading or worth seeing. And while you are at it, take a look at earthquakes as well. While you are at that, take a look at that disaster management. Just a quick revision, a few minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, half an hour, 15 minutes even, is fine. Try to connect. Don't stop the mind from working. These interconnections really, really come to your rescue at the time of the exam when you are really just boiled down to your knowledge about the world. And in the exam, when you see the questions, half the time you will not remember the books that you read. You will remember the real knowledge which you actually have of the world. That will come to your rescue, and from that, you will be able to eliminate many options. Of course, knowledge is important. If a straightforward static question comes, nothing but knowledge can save you. But the interconnections are still very important. Don't make the mistake of ignoring conceptual clarity and just focusing on the memory part of it. Don't do that. Maintain the flow, the interest, the interconnectivity, the curiosity should still be maintained, right? This brings me to another important issue, perhaps the most important issue. You see, you have to remain very calm during this entire period. And I cannot stress this enough. I don't want to stress it at all because that might stress you out. What I want to tell you is that I am not saying that you should not panic or you should stay calm because of some fluffy, feel good reason. I am saying that being calm is your job right now. The more you stay calm, the higher your quality is, the more likely you're going to achieve success, the more you will get better uh, accuracy in the exam, because many of your competitors will start to panic right now. Many of them will make a mess of whatever they have done over the past few months. It will happen. It is unfortunate, but it happens. Okay? The only way the chances of your success are going to increase at this point if you are calm. And by calm, I don't mean so relaxed that you are sleeping and not worried at all. Okay, I'm expecting that you will have a sense of anxiety and a sense of urgency right now. I don't want that sense of urgency to overtake you. I want you to make sure that at all times you are at a mental stability, so that whenever you are reading, constantly stress will come. You go into your study room, you see the books, you see the date. Every day you see the calendar, the date is going to hit you like a bullet, because you'll feel like the exam is now here, but it is not here yet. There is time, and that time can pass very quickly if you don't know what you're doing. I would like you to remain calm at all times. If anxiety comes, completely disconnect from your study, go someplace else. 10 minutes. For 10 minutes, sit down and meditate. Download Insight Timer app on your phone. Insight Timer app on your phone. It is a free application. 10 minutes, put the timer for 10 minutes, go meditate, come back, try again. If again panic overtakes you, stop, go do 10 minutes of it, come back again. And do that again and again and again until your mind is calm and you can actually read and understand what you are revising. Can't stress this enough, cannot emphasize this more than I already have. Everything will be determined by the quality of your learning. I know this sounds very cliched, but I'm telling you, after making many mistakes and after seeing people make the mistakes repeatedly, okay, the focus is on the subject despite of the quickly changing deadlines and the impending exam and the structuring of the syllabus that you need to do, and the planning part of it also causes stress. You sit down, get up in the morning, you don't have a plan, and you go see the date, you say that 20 days remain, 15 days remain. What am I going to do now? It's all over. And you may end up doing nothing, or you may end up just wasting even more time, or you may end up completely shutting down from panic, or you may end up in a very disorganized manner. These are all very likely. Maybe they will even happen for a few days. It's fine. Okay, it's fine. Completely okay. Happens. Happens to everyone. Chill out after that. Calm yourself down. Get back to the books with an even calm mind. A good way to actually monitor how you're feeling is to check your pulse just internally. If you pay attention and if you meditate for 10 minutes, you will be able to hear your heartbeat, and make sure that it doesn't increase beyond a certain point unless you are exercising. So, this is going to be one of the most important challenges of the intervening period. If you are anything like me, you will experience anxiety, you will experience a lot of stress. Don't let it overcome you. Figure out how to calm yourself, get back to the books again and again. Every day anxiety will come, every day you must push it down. Every day it will come more, every day you will need to push it down more. That is part of the job. Don't feel guilty for panicking. Don't feel like you are making a mistake. You're wasting even more time by panicking. It's a vicious cycle of stress and worry and thought and guilt and shame which goes around, and it can trap you and suck you in like a vortex. Don't let that happen. Okay? It's not your fault that you are feeling anxious. It is a problem and it is part of the exam. It is part of the job, like polity, like economics, this mental control, this ability to function under stress. You are being tested for it. Therefore, invest the time in it and invest the effort to make sure that in that area also you succeed. Because it is important. You can't really clear the exam without it. There is an interview stage also, but that's a topic for later. Now let me get you to the basics and the details of this plan and how it will work. So I have created a plan for you in the strategizer, which is an Excel sheet and an application. I have removed the functionality of the strategizer because you don't need it right now, and I've created a sort of plan for you. Here you will find the subjects listed from CSAT to current affairs, all the GS subjects. Here you will find dates. Here I have inserted the dates and some sources for you to follow. I'll walk you through how this works. Pay attention to math here, and this is CSAT math, logical reasoning, and all that portion. Let us say you start from the 5th of May 2022. You only have 5 days for it, no more than 5 days. Okay, you will do this every day for 5 days until you reach a sufficient level of expertise. Where will you do it from? Please go check out that CSAT math video and the resources I recommended from brilliant.org or any other sources you may have been following. The point is, for 5 days you are doing this. You will be doing other things also. I will tell you what. But you don't have any more than 5 days for this. That is the important thing. After you do it, you may wish to write that date here, and it should be 5th May, and it should be 10th May. You have till 10th May say to complete CSAT math, and then maybe do one test before going into the exam. We'll talk about that. There is a time for that. English, let it start from 10th May. Let it start immediately as you finish with math. You are going to switch to English on 10th May if it is a problem area for you. If it is not a problem area for you, you can reduce the time here. Same goes for math. Moving on to history. You will see that history starts from 5th May. I have put history in this place and top of the other subjects because of the volume and low ROI. So 5th May, history starts. So you are doing history and math together, essentially. Okay, half the day or for some hours you're doing this, for the others you're doing this. More time should be given to history, obviously, then it should be given to math. But you will have to judge this. If you're very weak at math, maybe you'll need to give more time. But in any case, you do history from 5th to 10th May, so you have no more than 5 days for it. You really must be selective and do only things which you have already done. Where will you get that maximum ROI? In my opinion, CCRT website and old Vipin Chandra or Spectrum can get you that. If you have already studied these, great. If you have not, just do whatever you have studied previously. Consolidate that. But at the end of the 10th day, at the end of the 5th day, so on 10th May, walk out of history, put it down, have the courage to put it down. Okay? Do whatever you can. Don't aim to do everything. Try to do as much as possible with a good quality of learning, with a good quality of understanding, with good quality of reading. It is not possible, maybe, to do the entire history in that time frame, and that's fine. It is possible to read these two sources in this time frame. Maybe you would like to do that or any other source which you have been following. I will give you this sample template to follow if you don't have a plan of your own. If you have it, maybe you can use these ideas and use these time frames or these sources or whatever just you want to take. Anything you want to take from it, go ahead and take it. Make sure your plan is better than it was after seeing this session. Polity, I think, can start after history because one, it is going to take a long time and you will have to do Lakshmikant or your previous source of study or your previous, whichever book you've referred to, and I would give it 5 days. It may take 7 days, but please try to wrap it up in 5 days. And again, I should mention again, This is the static portion. It is history, this polity, geography, economics, and all of this is the static portion here that I'm talking about. We're reading Lakshmikant here, we're reading 11th and 12th physical geography for geography. 5 days we'll give for geography, for the static portion of geography, no more than that. Then 5 days may be given to economics, economic survey, and again economics has been placed here and slightly below the others because I want you to have maximum current affairs coverage, and all these areas, remaining all these areas are densely current affairs based. And as you go up the chart, current affairs dependence reduces. That is why they have been arranged this way. So economics will give 5 days, environment will give 5 days from 25th May, science and tech we will give no more than 3 days, no more than 2 days, and current affairs we will start from the 10th May and we will do them all throughout the month. We will do current affairs every day. We will try to cover some current affairs. We will try to read at least half a magazine. If there are 12, we should be able to cover them in 24 days. If you are reading PT 365 or anything what you are reading, every day there should be some exposure and every day there should be some effort to connect this current affairs with these static portions wherever you find them worth connecting. Okay. Alongside, you can give 2 or anywhere between 4 or 5 mock tests. I have also mentioned the mock tests and the dates are also mentioned. You can change these dates. It would be good if you can give the mock tests alongside it. Or if you are not able to do these many mock tests, then maybe you would like to do a few less. But if you are doing mock tests, I think it's a good idea. I think it is a thing worth pursuing. I think it's going to be useful for you. I think you should give mock tests at this point, and I think that it is good practice. It will really put you in the exam mode. So you will find that there are many things going on simultaneously. Mocks are going on simultaneously. Let them go on simultaneously, even if you haven't reached current affairs. So if you are giving this mock here, current affairs has just started. You have not even reached science and tech, which will start from 28th May. It's okay. It's fine. It's okay. Give it anyway. Then you give this one, then you give this one and this one and so on. So mocks are ongoing simultaneously. Current affairs is ongoing simultaneously. Some static portion is going to be live. These deadlines are very important. If you don't stick to these, the whole thing will go awry. The whole thing will probably get off track. Try to stick to these. Understand that it is about quality, not quantity. Don't worry about doing everything. Whatever you do, make sure it's done well. I am repeating myself, so I want these things to get drilled down in your mind, right? And I think that is a comprehensive plan for the impending remaining days for you. I hope that you will be able to use this idea. I'll give you the image. You will be able to zoom in and see everything. I don't want to repeat myself, but I would like to emphasize, because it is important, very important. I don't want you to give up on a strategy which you already have. I would like you to supplement it, use it in any way to enhance or plug any loopholes or any issues which you might have. Last but not the least, there is still time. You are in the race. You have worked hard to be here. Everyone is feeling nervous, everyone is feeling anxiety, everyone is feeling overwhelmed, and the exam is of that nature. Keep everything that I have said in mind. Go ahead with courage and go ahead with a sense of pride of having come this far, regardless of the result. You fought well. If you stuck into the grind, if you stuck it out, if you worked hard, I can guarantee this quality will pay you very, very richly in your life. Whether you end up in the civil services or you end up in another place, this ability, this hard work, this capacity to suffer at this age is a rare quality. It will be highly appreciated wherever you go. What you are doing is not easy. You should be proud of yourself for coming this far, and you should still have the hunger to win. Don't give up. Keep pushing. Don't be hard on yourself. When you require, calm yourself down, get back to it. Plans may be given. I have given you a plan. It's okay if you are not able to stick to it. 1 or 2 days come gets here or there. It's fine. It's not the end of the world. Okay, enjoy the process. That's all I have for you. I hope that this will be a fruitful month. I will have some more compilations and sources and a very important session about MCQ answering strategies, which I'll be sharing shortly with you. With that, I will leave you and I will see you next time.